Skugtash, Aninov Chugik, Jennifer Varenchek. Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Varenchek. I am one of the aunties in the SISSY UNCI Auntie live stream. So happy to have everybody with us. This episode, we are talking to Indigenous creators. We are Indigenous Creativity Unleashed. We're going to be talking with not only a dear friend, but an accomplished filmmaker. We will get into that later. But before we do, I would like to bring on our co-host, Avril. Avril, if you can join me, please, here on screen. Yay!
Hio Homitakiape, Eva Cordovi, Machiape, Malakota, and Taos Pueblo. My Tama is Joseph Conquilla Cordova. My Ina or my cause, Patricia Crow Cordova. I'm sixth generation from Chief Red Cloud. I'm the owner operator of AC and Associates. I'm a mother, daughter, community member, co-host, and I'm honored to be here today. And I'm excited to be here. I'm thankful to be here, and I'm excited for the show. So thanks all for being here.
Me too. Me too.
Jen, it's so good to see you.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Our prayer for our show. So I'm going to start with our prayer. I do have some California sage, which that is where Avril is today. Is that correct, Avril?
It is. It is. I'm normally in a different city, but I just pulled in to California. So if you're in California and you want to hang out, I'll be here until Sunday. Let me know. Give me a call if you have my number. We'll hook up. We'll get together.
For sure. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to go into our prayer now. I lit our sage. I'm going to put it in our abalone shell here, and here we go. Some for me, some for you all. Take it all in. Creator, thank you so much for this opportunity for us to connect virtually over the internet, over this giant spider web that has reached all corners of the earth. I'm so grateful for these friends, to be able to have a platform to shine a light on creative people like Mike. And I ask for prayers for the Alaskan villages and for the people there. I ask that they are comforted and given whatever it is they need, supplies, just that I want them to know that we're praying for them, we're thinking of them, we're uplifting them. And prayers, of course, for our families, for our communities, and just again, thank you for letting us have this wonderful live stream. Oh, talk you say. Amen.
Thank you, Jen, for that. We always like to open in a good way that includes prayer and a land acknowledgement. So we today want to ask you and put it in the chat where you're coming from. I today am in Tongva territory, also known as Los Angeles, and I'm so thankful to be here and here safely. Also, we want to ask if you're here, let us know where you're checking in from, where you're watching from. Let us know in the chat. We have a great show today. So if you also want to know what lands you're on, if you don't know, all of this, Unchimaka, our Mother Earth, was inhabited before it became the United States. And there is always origins or native people that were here before it became what we know today as the United States. So to find out what lands you're on, that you're a guest on, or what tribal nations represent your area, you can always check out native-land.ca to find out what tribal lands you're on, but today I'm checking in from Tongva territory, and I'm so happy and thankful to be here today. So I'm going to pass it back to Jen.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm checking in today, acknowledging that I'm on the illegally occupied Kingdom of Hawaii in the city of Kaneohe, in the community of Kahalu. And I acknowledge and recognize that I'm a visitor on this territory.
Sounds great. Sounds great. And I was able to, as you guys all know, if you
I
checked out
think
our last
we will
live.
now go into a question.
Yep. But before we do that, as I wanted to just say that I was last month in Jen's area. It was so beautiful. And I was so thankful to see my bestie, my co-host, and we shared some great times. So I'm excited for today's show, and we will go into the question. So, Jen, do you want to go ahead and ask the question?
Yes, the question is, in case of an emergency, are you prepared for a natural disaster? And growing up in California, our natural disasters in my time were just earthquakes, but now it's earthquakes and fires. But here in Hawaii, it is tsunamis and typhoons and hurricanes. And we are now prepared, but we were not prepared with this last one that just.
I know we've.
How about you, April?
I actually have been prepared in past living in California. You know, there are fires and there are earthquakes, and it's always been to have like a box or something worth of 7 days of food or some water. But that I moved to a different state, and I am in Nevada now. And with the move, we still have stuff in boxes. But I definitely need to become more prepared for a natural disaster. We have high winds, we have monsoons now where I live, and I don't think I'm as prepared as I have been in the past. So this question was brought up because of the recent natural disasters that have happened in Alaska. And we just want to see if our community, you all out there watching us, are prepared. It gives us some reason to think about it. You know, if something were to happen, something were to happen, are you able to run out the door and grab that box of important documents, or do you have the food or the water to be prepared? So it's a question as me and Jen and our team were preparing for this month's live. It's a great question that we'd like to pose to the audience. Let us know in the comments chat if you guys are all prepared. But to be honest, I would say that for myself at this time, I'm not as prepared as I want to be, as I would need to be. Jen?
I think because we just recently went through a possible tsunami, because we went through that, and I knew like we need to print our life insurance, our homeowners insurance, like we need to print all these things in case something happens. Like you just have to have it, because the internet power, it might not be up, and you just need to make sure that we have all that. So we did. Glenn was not happy about doing it because most of the tsunami, thank goodness, warnings here are, they don't, nothing ever happens. So everyone's kind of like, oh yeah, it's just another tsunami. Kind of like how I know I was about earthquake also. I was like, oh, it's an earthquake. Like, because it happens so often, it doesn't really like phase me as much. And now I'm starting to be like that about tsunamis. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, another tsunami.
Mhm.
But we want to, because of that, we had to get everything together. So now we got it all together. So, but we do need to get our food situation. But other than that, we got our paperwork together.
That's important as well. I didn't even think about the paperwork. Also, if you have pets or animals or children or elderly, we also need to make sure that we prepare for that with some medication or, dog food or whatever type of food that you feed your animal, um, and those types of things as well. As a caregiver, I now am thinking with this posed question is that I got to get those things ready for the person that I'm caring for, whether it be my grandchildren or my mother-in-law. So it's a lot bigger things, and maybe even keeping, and now that I'm thinking about it, maybe even keeping it like in the garage where I can just grab it and go. So thanks for that. Thanks for coming up with that question, Jen.
Well, again, it is because we want to spotlight what's happening in Alaska to our relatives up there. I think that you were able to find some places where we can donate, or one of the places that we can donate. Is that right, April? Was it in the pre-show?
It was in the pre-show. Yes, there are some a flyer that I was able to put in the pre-show, and by the end of the show today, I'll bring it up, and we'll show it before we end today. So if you weren't able to um, see it, I'll go ahead and bring it up before we leave.
Great. That's awesome. Okay, so are we ready to move on now to introduce our guest?
Yes, we are.
I'm talking slowly to make sure that I am not. I feel like that SNL sketch. Anyways, okay. Um, here we go. Our guest today is ICTA award-winning filmmaker Mike J. I'm so nervous to say it because I know it's not. It's Marin, or it is Marin. Yes, it's Marin. Mike J. Marin, who is Navajo, Laguna Pueblo, and Washoe. Born in Oakland, he began as a teacher and a youth mentor before turning to film. His debut feature, The Smudging, which I saw, became a cult classic in Native cinema, and his award-winning films like First Voice continue to blend cultural storytelling with the horror genre. Mike's newest documentary, Blacktop Poets, tells the story of the first recognized Native American hip-hop group from Oakland, a group he co-founded. And then he has some upcoming events that I just want to shout out right now. The Blacktop Poets premiere screening will be at the LA Skins Fest on November 22nd. First Voice screening will be at Sierra College. It's tentative, but tentatively scheduled for February 2026. And the Smudging 10-year anniversary screening at the Intertribal Friendship House in Oakland, and that will be in March 2026. All right, so without further ado, let's bring on Mike. Yay!
Boo, boo,
I know
boo.
we need to get a sound effect.
That use that war cry from Dallas Gold too.
Oh, that too, yes.
Hey, how are you both?
We are good. Thank you for being here. We're excited to hear about all the great things that you're doing, that you've done. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen so she can ask some questions, or that first question that we have for you.
Yes. But before we do that, I do want to ask you our other question, which is, are you prepared for an emergency?
No, because the one thing that we do need to get is a lockbox, one of those fire protective
Mm.
lockboxes. Because, like you said, I'm also here on Tongva land, aka Los Angeles, and earthquakes. Since growing up in the Bay Area and up north, yes, earthquakes were huge. Fires now, especially with climate change down here, it's rampant. And first of all, heart and prayers and shout outs and condolences to the folks in Alaska for their disaster. Get them aid as much as you can, whether it's donating food, clothing, or resources, or yourself, please do. Um, but yeah, the number one thing, like you brought up, Jen, paperwork.
Mm.
Paperwork, anything like that, yes, please make sure you have all that in tow. For myself personally, I have a huge collection of action figures, both worth money and not, but you know what? None of that's more important than human life.
Mm.
So, yeah, I have my bag already packed. Uh, and one thing also to have on hand is cash. Make sure you have
Mm.
cash on hand. Um, so yeah, I think we're okay. But the only thing we need is the box. All we have now is everything in a cardboard file cabinet box.
All right. So we all have work to do, I guess.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
all right. So we're going to be some prepared natives coming 2026.
But we work well. Our people have always worked well under pressure. So, bring it.
It's where I
But please don't
shine.
bring it.
Okay, so let me ask you our first official question. And this is about your origins and like your influence. I know you've worn many hats, from a teacher and a mentor and a filmmaker, hip hop artist. How did growing up in Oakland and being a part of those early Native educational programs shape the kind of stories you tell today?
A big part about um, my upbringing was it's always been community. Growing up in a Native community, everybody is your mom, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle. So it's like, you just don't get disciplined by one person. You got to run the gauntlet, which was how we grew up. Is there was no difference between your family, my family. It was just all one big family, and that helped shape my perspective on things. Even now as an adult, is to always be available to your community, whatever your community needs, to make sure you're
Mm.
always there. And I would say a huge plus for me in community was not only going to our native preschool, Hintel Kuka, back in the 70s, but returning in the 90s as a teacher and going
Mm.
back to teacher. That was, as we say now with our Apple Watches, that was one of my rings. I closed one of my rings. And it was a huge thing for me. It was it's also a part of the healing process,
Mm.
just going back and working with some people that are experiencing generational trauma, and to be an advocate for that medicine, to be that medicine that to brings it back to community instead of hoarding it or gatekeeping it. Is you share it, you pass it on, in the hopes that younger generations will do the same thing, which warms my heart to this day to see some of the youth that I taught as parents now, and
Mm.
seeing them carry it forward. So that's it. For me. It's always been about community, and that goes into the stories that I tell. Is that community stories, things that happen, especially with urban natives, and not a lot of people know the urban native story. So things that happen in the urban native settings, and I tend to take them into the supernatural. So because of my experiences, but we'll get more into that later.
Thank you. I love that. Yes. April and I were nodding because we've also worked in community and know what it's like to have the kids that you've worked with, and now they're parents and they're having families, and it's like it's a trip. It's a trip, man.
Yep. Yep. and to be able to tell their kids, like, you're just like your mom. I know just how you were acting. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a blessing. It's a huge blessing to me.
It is. It's crazy how we can see. I mean, it's just crazy how time flies, and they were once this little person, or this individual, and now they're a grown person. And you do see those things like resonate, and a lot of the times, for families and youth that I've seen grow, I've seen them flourish in so many different ways, like remembering who they are as children and adolescents, to growing to these working individuals and caring also for community and wanting
Yeah.
to grow in community as well. So thank you for answering that. I want to shout out E-Society Podcast. They say they know you. So thanks, E-Society Podcast, for checking us out. Okay. We are going to go to our next question. And this has to do with the smudging's legacy. The smudging became a cult classic in Native cinema. What do you think resonates most with audiences? And what did you learn from making that film that you still carry into your work now?
So with audiences, I think it's a lot of people have never seen a Native supernatural story of this caliber. I mean, in the 70s, we grew up with pretty much white-centric Native stories, like the Manitou or Nightwing, things like that. And I think a Native person at the helm telling this type of story, especially a lot of us who grew up in urban settings, I can only speak for this because that's my folks, is that we've all experienced something in some sort of Native cultural center in the city. We've heard stories, we've had our own experiences. So I think developing that into a screenplay and then ultimately putting it on film, a lot of Native people were like, "Oh my God, something like that." It always generates that retrospective. Oh, I remember something like that happened, or I heard about, But then showing it to non-native audiences, it was a gamble, because a lot of people that didn't understand it, of course, the first thing they do is bash it, and it's fine. If you don't understand it, it's fine, but ask questions, and instead of just kind of being quick to critique it. But I think audiences really like it because it's simple. It's a simple story. It's scary, and it's based on a lot of the things I've experienced working in 2 different cultural centers, and those are just put into the screenplay. And carrying that with me as far as storytelling, I always liked stories that deal with things watching you from the dark, and what kind, because we're always to me, the shadows have teeth. And so I like to put that element into stories, as someone or something's always watching you. And how do you deal with that if you were to experience it? Like, what kind of things would you use to either fight it, or, the one thing that we always assume will work is trying to destroy it. But our kind of energies, our kind of spirits, you can't, because it's all feeds off some sort of negative energy. And I think the more negativity that goes into that, these things keep coming back, because it feeds off of it. Those are the kind of things that I carry into it, is real life experiences, because the horror that I write, the supernatural and the terror that I write, comes from myself. Without getting too much into it, I'm a trauma survivor, and I know fear. I know horror on a very visceral level. And so that's where I choose to write from, is that I kind of turn that fear against itself, and I use it now to tell stories. And to me, a lot of it just comes from me being afraid. I'm 53 years old and still need the light on in some way. But I've made friends with the dark. Now in storytelling, I've become those teeth in the shadow, because I know it scares people.
I love that. I think I also came up with a really great title for a film. The Shadows Have Teeth.
Feel free to use it. Yep. Well,
Before we,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So one of the things I wanted to tell you that came out of the smudging that's been just the ultimate joy to talk about, and I'm often asked is how did I come up with the sage grenade? And because in that film I've introduced the sage grenade, and when I watch screenings of that from the first screening to the current, everybody always laughs at that. What's a sage grenade? So I even went as far as patenting it. So any storyteller wants to use it, feel free to use it. But I just thought it would be something funny to put out there. And so yeah, a native traditional medicine weapon is a sage grenade.
Mm, that's awesome. The question that I was going to ask is if people don't know about the smudging, can you just give a little bit of background behind it or what
Yeah.
a tease, I guess you would say, is so that people will want to find out where to find it? Or I've seen it, Jen's seen it, but I don't know if our audience has seen it.
If they want to watch it on streaming, it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon Prime. So it's been there now for I think 5 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
But the story is basically a group of paranormal researchers are called to a Native American cultural center in Chicago to do an investigation. And what the film is pretty much what happened in the course of that night. So you're going to watch it's in the lines of kind of a found footage type thing, which a lot of people that saw it thought it was a documentary, which is kind of interesting. But it came from an idea of what am I going to do with all these stories that I have in my head, all these experiences? What am I going to do with it? And so I just came up with this idea of the ghost hunting team go into this building, and this is what happens to them. Very simple, one location shot, and filmed with one camera. And this is what it came to. Is a lot of people love it. Became kind of a cult classic in our communities, and I'm proud of that film. It was my first attempt working on a top ramen budget, and there it is.
And you did it. Like that's like such a thing to be like proud of. It's a feature film and you did it all on your own, independent. I love that. I think that I've yet to make a feature film. I've only made shorts. I've made a lot of shorts, but like I admire that so much. Like that I think, we've had conversations with other Native filmmakers about how, like, it's up to us. Like, nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to help and give us a golden ticket. It's like, we have to do it. And like, I know you've been out there in the field doing it. I'm out there still doing it. It's like, and I'm not going to give up until I make it. And I don't know what making it means, but like one thing that I wanted to share with our audience is how much I admire your hustle. And I remember, I think you had just gotten to Los Angeles when you reached out to UAII about screening your short. Is that right?
Yeah, that was back in 2017, I think. Gosh.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And I was like, who's this filmmaker? Like who like just got to town? He's got this film. And our friend Willie vouched for you. He was like, I saw the smudging at in Digicon, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
It had screened somewhere. He's like, no, it's screened. It's like legit. And I'm like, all right, well then let's do it. And so we brought you in to do your film, and that's how we met. And I think that that's such a, like, it's not a quality that I really have to be out there being like, show my film, show my film. I just kind of make them and submit them and then just like move on. But I really admire that in you. And I just wanted to have an opportunity to say that. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to go on to our next official question. And this is about like horror and heritage culture, kind of like those two things. you've blended like native traditional kind of like ghost stories with the horror genre, and what draws you to horror specifically as a storyteller, and how do you kind of like walk that line of horror and culture, because like you want to scare your audience and you do a great job at that, but then there's also like this whole cultural aspect to it. And what are your thoughts on that?
As I touched on earlier, it's all my horror is born out of my trauma. And it's kind of therapeutic for me to be able to talk about that, because now I finally have the courage to talk
Mm,
about that and write stories relating to that. So I have to go back all the way when I was a kid, and I grew up with the likes of, you know, Universal Monsters and the big bug movies, the atomic bug movies of the 50s. And it all changed one night in early 1970s when my oldest brother, was babysitting me. My parents were at a bowling tournament, and he and I watched Night of the Living Dead. It was the first time I'd ever seen it, the original Night of the Living Dead, and that totally changed everything for me. After that, I was very lucky that to be to see the original John Carpenter's Halloween in the theater when I was 7 years old with my brother and my sister. They told my parents, "Oh, we're going to go see something like Witch Mountain or something," and we went and saw Halloween. And still to this day, I don't care how many times I've seen it, it still scares me. It's my number one favorite horror movie ever. Um, and then I just started seeing everything. I needed to see everything, from the re-releases of Texas Chainsaw to Friday the 13th, everything, to Blair Witch Project, found footage, you know, J horror, you know, all this kind of stuff. I just started bringing it all in. I couldn't see enough of it. And I just thought, you know, back in 2016, 2015, when I wrote the smudging, I was like, I can do this. I can tell a story. So writing that, I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to have to use some cultural aspects in here. So I'm going to have to get some permissions. Um, so I have my mentor was also my cousin, still lives in Chicago. So I presented the script to him, and he, you know, got his red marker out. Can't say this, we can't do this, we can't show this. So a lot of the times a lot of the script I had to change. Luckily it was still effective. But for us as native filmmakers, I think working in horror, especially with the themes we you know talk about, it's a discipline. There's a discipline to it. We can't just write it and put it out there, because there's things we don't want to disrespect, and especially during some tribes only tell certain stories during certain seasons, and you kind of want to honor that. You don't just want to put it out there and say, you know, this is it, you know, just to make a few bucks. You know, you put it out there with the hope that people will understand it, and of course people will have fun watching it. But the process going through there, it has to you have to have a discipline to it when dealing with cultural aspects and dealing with cultural substance. You have to have that discipline, because if you don't know it, why are you going to try and tell it? Because you're going to get it wrong. And I always think that there are some things, if you try to tell it and you tell it wrong, it could backfire on you. I mean, I don't wish that on anybody, but you know, you just kind of have to be careful about what you're going to tell, how you're going to tell it, and who you're going to tell it to. So those are the things that, from growing up in community, that I carry over when I tell these kind of stories. And
I
on top of that, when people see native horror, it scares the crap out of them, non-native people, because they don't know what it is,
Mm.
right? They don't know. You know, like the first thing they want to do when meeting a native spirit is, oh, use sage. That's what Indians use. But do you know how to use it? Number two, go ahead and grab your Bibles, because our things can eat a stack of Bibles. And that's
Mm.
the first thing, is like, because I tell people, you know, that religion wasn't on this continent. These things are born from this land. So it doesn't know what God is. It doesn't know what Jesus is. It doesn't know that. So why would it be scared of it? But there's always things to learn from these as well. There's always a lesson to learn. Like, for example, Mac Nez of East Society Podcast, I interviewed him one time, and he said, it's funny in these native horror movies, the things that white folks think are bad, there are spirits. Like, they look after us, but yet they conjure it up and it starts attacking them, and they expect us to fix it. It's like, you guys messed around with it, and we know well not to. We like us. We don't go in graveyards and kick over headstones. So it's that too. It's, you have to be able to tell a story that kind of has a lesson to it.
Mm. I myself am not a horror person. I don't like scary movies, but I can totally resonate with what you're saying. Even with the last part of, kicking over headstones. When we go to the cemetery, my grandchildren and my family know not to step on headstones. That's just out of respect for myself. I always say, don't step on the headstones. That's somebody's, even though it's just a small thing like that. Or whistling at night, I've heard of different things like that, but horror is not my thing. I've never seen any of those movies that you've talked about. But I love the going back and forth that you and Jem have, because you share such a passion for, the film industry. You guys can talk about movies all day long, but I really appreciate you sharing with our audience, what it means to you, and also the truth about you and your trauma, and how you've used that passion towards movies, or, to heal in some way. But thank you so much for sharing that. I want to go ahead and, Jen, do you have anything else before we go on to our next question?
No.
Okay,
I'm trying to stay quiet.
Okay, so the next question is, you've spent over 2 decades working in early childhood and youth programs, and this is around teaching and filmmaking. How has the experience influenced your direct style or the way that you build relationships on the sets?
Oh, a lot of the times it is kind of like working with kids. And one thing we like to do, one thing I carried over from teaching, a huge thing, is actually learning from one of my favorite directors. It's the legendary master of horror, John Carpenter. I had the honor of getting to have a conversation with him, and I asked him, as a filmmaker, what's your advice? And he just told me 2 words: have fun. So those 2 words is what I love to do. When I was teaching, that was the one thing. Yeah, we were learning and had a education type relationship with my students, but at the same time we had fun. We went outside, we went on walks, we played football, we did whatever, jump rope. And when I take that philosophy into my filmmaking, because I like everybody on set to have a good time. I like to see people laugh, and I like us to have fun. And I think predominantly working in horror movies, you have to, because sometimes the subject matter is so heavy, you have to have fun. And I like to make my sets fun. I'm not like a Kubrick style director. We're not going to shoot things 30 times and I'm not going to yell at you for what I don't do that. I like to make them very comfortable, and I like to make sure that everybody has what they need. I like to make sure everybody is taken care of. But most of all, I like to have fun. Kid around. I'm a big kid. I'm a 53-year-old guy that collects action figures and watches cartoons, and I'm a big old kid. So I like carrying that with me, because I don't know what it is to feel like to be serious. There are some times I am, but on set, everybody understands we got to get the work done. And that's the same thing with teaching. Do your homework first. Let's get that out of the way, and then we'll go outside and play. So I always carry that. Let's work first, and then we'll have fun later. And another big thing is discipline. My students need to trust me. They never want to hear, I don't know. I always have to find, let's learn together. Let's figure this out together. Same with filmmaking is if your cast and crew doesn't trust you, if you lose faith in your project, they'll know it
Mm.
and no one will care. So you have to, even if it's something you don't want to do, you have to fake it to make it because they may be having fun. And just because you're not, you don't want to ruin that for them. Just because, like teaching, if you're having a bad day and you come in, the kids are going to know it. So you got to put your game face on because they might be having a bad day. So you have to throw all your BS aside and be able to make sure you focus on them. So that's all part of the nurturing process, right? Even with directing, even with filmmaking, your cast and crew, you have to be able to say, okay, what's going on with you? You can't say, you know what, I'm having a bad day, so you just knock it on. You can't do that. You can't do that because bottom line is we're human beings. We take care of each other.
Mm.
So that's what I carry over is that I care and that we're going to have fun.
Love that. I have 2 grandchildren and we always go on, I'll be like, let's go do something. And they don't even ask where we're going, what we're going to do. It's always, we're going on an adventure. They ask me, like, if I'll say, let's go somewhere. Do you want to go somewhere? We're going on an adventure. They know that we're going to have a good time. And I think that, resonates in just relationships in general, not only on the set, but in person. Like you said, me and Jen, I myself have worked with a lot of youth. And I think that trust and that relationship that I've been able to be honest with other people or those individuals, I think they feel comfort, when we are doing something and I just want the best for them. I want the best, not only for my grandchildren, but people that are in my circle.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
And it's okay. It's okay to be scared. That's one of the things I used to tell my kids. I'm scared too. It's okay to be scared. Let's be scared together because at least we're together and we're going to support each other. So that too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. It
Thank
reminds
you.
me of being on set, like as a producer, helping a first time or kind of like a new director. And we're all putting our trust into this person, this director, including myself as a producer who's laying all the groundwork for them so that they can do what they need to do. But in the last 3 short films that I've helped to produce, it's been like a core of like, the director and like 2 other producers. And we're all scared. We all know that something's going to happen, and which it always does. Somebody drops out, something happens, you lose your location. Like we're all in this together, our little core. And then when you finally get on set, it's like everybody, but like, as long as that core is trusting of each other and supportive of each other, I think you're going to have a good project. But when there's any type of ill feelings or infighting, which I luckily have not I've been able to avoid that. And I've definitely I think that working in the community, and specifically in the Native urban community, and knowing how, I don't know if you call it politics, but like how it operates, because it's very similar to all different urban communities. Each one, of course, has its own way, but like it's all kind of similar. Like has helped me transition into filmmaking, knowing, I don't know how to explain it, but just like I worked in one and then I worked in the other, and I'm like, oh, they're very similar. Not the same, but they are similar. So
I think also with that too is going into that when we see the similarities in projects and different environments. I think a lot of it is us. Is we know what we're doing now, so we know how to handle different situations. Like we can adapt, and because we're not just one way. Like that's huge that you say that because a lot of times there are similarities, but there's, especially if you're dealing with politics and moods, but the way that we handle it, I think that's us. is we know what we're doing, you know, and that's huge, that we can go into these different environments, because I transition between narrative and documentaries. And it's the same thing. It's like they may be different, but they're telling a story. And it's the fact that I can manage, if I can manage actors, I can manage reality, because there's a real thin veil with that. And I think that's a plus. Is Jen, you know what you're doing. So big ups to you.
I'm laughing because you're like, if I can manage actors, and I was like, oh Lord, yes, if you can manage actors. I admire, I love actors. Actors are the best. You can't make a story, you can't make a film project without an actor, obviously. But I really love actors that are also multifaceted, like they're writers or directors or producers, because then they have a little bit more understanding,
Mm-hmm.
sympathy even, or empathy for, like, it's not just like this one moment, it's like months of work that went in before, you know. And I definitely, I remember when I was making Crossers, which Averill, it's a horror film, and I made her watch. She was like, I don't want to watch it. I'm like, please, I need somebody to watch it. You've seen me working on this, from literally sketching out things to like now I'm putting it together. But when I was filming that, something happened. I don't remember exactly what, but something happened. Like we lost our location, we lost a key person. I don't know what. And it made me want to throw in the towel. And I remember getting the phone call and like hanging up and just like crying and like, what am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. And like, obviously I moved forward and we handled it. But not this last film, but the film before that, we lost our gaffer. Like he got he was on vacation and he decided to extend his vacation. So he wasn't coming back and he was out of the US. And we're like, cool, like we get it, but like our whole project is like, what are we gonna do? We don't have a gaffer. And I was the one who was like, all right, everybody, calm down. We're gonna find somebody. Don't worry about it. We'll get someone. And I was like, oh my God, this is such a switch from like when I was like the person freaking out to now I'm like, don't worry about it. We'll get it. We'll find someone. And we did. Of course, you always do. Like it always works out. So yeah, like all these years later, I do know what I'm doing.
Yeah, straight up.
Takes a while, I guess, right? Okay, so moving on to our next question, which I think we only have time. Am I right, April, for one more?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead and I'm going to ask about Blacktop Poets. So Blacktop Poets, it's a film that will be showing at Skins Fest. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we want to give you a moment to talk about that, but it explores Native hip hop history, something that many people don't know about. They don't know that Native hip hop exists. So what was it like for you to revisit that part of your life, and how does music fit into your storytelling now?
It was a time machine experience. I mean, had it not been I had the honor and privilege of meeting the legendary Chuck D from Public Enemy, and to have him know who we are. He knows our group. He used to listen to us, and to know who I am. So talking with him got inspiration to do this documentary, because he said something in our conversation. He said, life is always happening and you have to tell it. So this was a big part of my life, is being part of a groundbreaking hip hop group out of Oakland, California. And it's so beautiful, because it's still a process, right? I'm still getting video, people that filmed us. I'm still getting videos and pictures, and a couple of our guys are finding old cassette tapes of our demos, and just seeing all this and hearing all that. It's really a big culture shock for me, because a lot of it is like, oh my God, we did that. We said that. We met these people, you know, and I'm really excited to have people hear this story, especially from those that lived it. And seeing that part of my life, it was like, I can't believe I was brave enough to get on stage. You know, back then, um, I was considerably bigger. I was really overweight, and so very self-conscious about my appearance. But you know what? I did it. I dared myself to do it, and we did it. We put songs out. We performed. Unfortunately, through some creative differences, I had to leave the group, but they went on. There was never no animosity, never no jealousy. They went on and did things that were remarkable, opening for Los Lobos and Shaka Khan and Santana. I mean, those are some big names, legendary musicians. They did that. I was so proud of them. Second album, they asked me to come back and help write it, so I did. We started performing again. That's where I was most involved with album number 2. Then we went our separate ways. I moved to Chicago, moved out of the Bay Area, lost touch with everybody except for my brother. And then a couple months ago, I run into the front man for the group, and he says, "What do you think about doing something?" So we started just kicking ideas around. But then I met Chuck D, came up with the idea for the documentary, and just let him know I want to do a documentary about our group. They were more than willing to send me pictures, send me stuff to tell the story, but more importantly, they trust me to direct it and to tell the story. So it's a big part of my life that not a lot of people know about either. They know me as a teacher, as an artist, and as a filmmaker, but never knew that I was a hip hop producer. And to have this come out now, especially now, and 30 years later, 30 something years later, since we came out in 92, to have it happen now and to get younger people interested, saying, "Oh my God, you guys are part of where can we hear your stuff?" So they're excited to see this. So this went into storytelling. I've always been a storyteller, and I give that up to my grandma on my Washoe side. My dad's mom, I would spend summers with her, and we would trade stories. She would ask me to read the newspaper to her, and then she said, "When we're done, I'll tell you a Washoe story." All of them were always scary, which was fine with me. So being a storyteller is all across the board. Even with I do action figure photography, and I do single frame stories. Like I take a picture, and anybody that looks at it interprets it in their own way. So just kind of a quick plug with my last narrative film, First Voice. It's exactly what it is. It's a first voice narrative. I'm telling you a story. I'm not showing you anything, and you got to use your imagination, because whatever you hear, and my character is a dispatcher, whatever you hear in my headphones, you have to imagine what that is. So yeah, storytelling's always been a thing with me, from hip hop to art to movies, and now another circle is closed, back to hip hop.
That is so cool. I love that Chuck D like knows who you are. That is like, I don't know, that's amazing.
It was my reaction was when he goes, "Hey, where you been?" I was like, I live in LA now. And he's like, "Man, you guys are without reservation, right?" And at that moment, it was like that camera effect, that trombone where the background just like extended, but there was just me like, and I literally said, "Chuck D, you know who we are?" He's like, "Yeah, man." And we just talked for a good 20 minutes. But I mean, it was that right there was that was my fortune cookie moment. So I opened that, and there was that paper saying, "Tell your story." That's what I'm doing.
That's so awesome. I mean, to hear that is just like blows my mind, which I'm sure it blew your mind too, but that's so awesome. Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask if there's anything that you would like to share. I know you have a video, or can you tell us a little bit about it before we bring it on?
Yeah, this is the trailer, the official trailer for Blacktop Poets. And so anybody that wants to know, our group is called, is, because we never broke up, Our group is called Without Reservation. Born in Oakland in 1992 in the back room of the Intertribal Friendship House. The original group members were Chris Lamar, Kevin Nez, Corey Arenado, and myself, Mike J. Marin. And then later on, picked up Yardi Want. And this is an intro. This is the intro film. It's basically what's showing at Skins Fest is a 15-minute intro to the bigger project, which comes out in 2027. But this right here, what we're going to show is the official trailer to the film.
Awesome. So here we go.
Being in Without Reservation was probably one of the best things that ever happened in my life.
The occupation of Alcatraz and what was going on in Pine Ridge and at Wounded Knee. Growing up in that environment kind of shaped my lyrical style and the things that Without Reservation spoke about in their songs.
There was a lot of obstacles when we first formed the group, especially from our own community. We're kind of like, the elders were like, who are these guys trying to be? This is not our way. We don't tell stories that way. We don't speak of our culture that way. But hip hop was our generation's form of storytelling.
It was something new at the time. In the early 90s, there wasn't a lot of native hip hop groups within the Bay Area or that we heard from other states.
We probably had like 100, 200 other native rappers, like within a couple years, contact us to ask for assistance and helping getting them produced.
The fact that people think that we were crossing over into an only black culture of music, it was just kind of closed-minded. We opened up a lot of minds. We opened up a lot of doors. We were the first ones. Don't get that wrong. Without Reservation was the first Native American rap group in the United States.
As we got older and we saw other native rap groups and they knew who we were, we definitely understood the influence we had because they would talk about how they listened to Without Reservation.
We got up there and we just did our thing. We were loud, we were proud. We would get the hype up from everybody in the group, hyped up from everybody in the audience.
I never looked at it as we broke up because we all stay connected. We're Without Reservation.
Defend the territory.
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 It was homeland.
Defend the territory.
Without reservation.
Awesome. That is so awesome. I am so thankful that you are here today, that you were able to join us on our From Script to Screen Indigenous Creatives Unleashed. I'm excited for everybody, if they can, go out to Skins Fest. That's in Los Angeles in November. Please check out their website. And below, we have your email and your socials. But I'm just thankful that you could be here today.
Oh, I appreciate you both and thank you for having the guest uncle. I love that. But I appreciate you both, not only for having me, but for having this platform to show people who we are in all different avenues of life. And it's great. I mean, I love being a part of this. I will support this any way I can. And I really do. I think, speaking for a lot of us Native creatives, we appreciate you guys for having us.
You are so welcome. And if you have any aunties or uncles that you want to highlight, please send them our information. We do this as a passion project. We come on every month on Thursday, and we highlight somebody or something. And we're just thankful again that you can be here. I wish you the best, and going to turn it over to Jen for some
you.
final words.
Thank you, April.
Sure.
I appreciate you.
Ta'a pila mayeye. Gracias at yehet.
Oh, okay, hit. I'll go on it.
Jen, any final words?
I'm going to close this out. I do not. No final words. I just want to say goodbye and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jen.
Arnold. Thank you. Reminder, our next show is November 13th. And please join us then. We will see you all soon. Thanks for checking in. Have a great day. Be well.
Take care. Blessings.